Welcome back to another moment in Black history. My name is Halima Sharif, and I'm the host and producer for Anything and Everything, the show which acknowledges that everyone has a story. As previously mentioned, in recognition of Black History Month and beyond, we will have a number of phenomenal guests. Our first guest was Grammy Award winning artist Adonis Rose, followed by celebrity footwear designer and style correspondent E2 Evans. And today, we have the wonderful Sean James, former two-sport college athlete and professional football player for the Minnesota Vikings, currently a successful business, finance, and philanthropic guru. Welcome, Sean. It's great to connect with you again, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Oh, man, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Sean, you and I met, help me remember, back in 2014, 2015,
Yeah,
serving as advisory board members for Ultimax Health.
yeah.
And we've been connected ever since. You have been doing some amazing things in several communities throughout the US and abroad, and I just had to have you on the show.
I appreciate it. I mean, I think that you're the greatest since sliced bread. There's so many things that I love about you. So we'll keep it short. I'm appreciative that you thought of me, and I'm honored to be on the show. And I can't thank you enough for thinking of me in that way.
Oh man, listen, you look, you're the man, all right? So before we get started, I want to read your wonderful bio to the audience. Sean James is known for establishing and cultivating relationships within the academic and corporate worlds to create opportunity and innovation in the financial and philanthropic arenas. He is a former two sport college athlete and professional football player for the Minnesota Vikings, who has developed a successful career in business and finance, managing accounts totaling over $150 million and in philanthropy. After ending his athletic career over 25 years ago, he has made a point of exploring multiple professional arenas. Sean has coupled the lessons he has taken as an athlete along with those he has gained as a businessman with an MBA from George Washington University in order to solidify a successful career in wealth management and an important role in the world of philanthropy. His experience as an athlete, a student, and a businessman gives him a rare lens with which he can examine the efficacy and efficiency of a wide range of programs and corporations by focusing on four principles: philanthropy, access, networking, and education, which is an acronym for PAIN. Sean's firsthand knowledge, coupled with his own network, one built over 3 decades and encompassing the academic, athletic, corporate, and philanthropic fields, enable him to create access, opportunity, and awareness that establish and build relationships and turn them into lucrative business endeavors. Sean has presented speeches on such topics as financial literacy for short and long term objectives, transitioning from professional athlete to corporate professional, cultivating a culturally safe work environment, establishing and building relationships and business opportunity through the four principles of pain, promoting bullying awareness through leadership skills. He's a board member of Athlete Ally, advisory board member of Athletes for Vets, Ultimax Health, Grades for Life, the Boys and Girls Club, Virtual Enterprises International. Wow, you have a lot going on. Once again, my brother, welcome.
Thank you. That was long-winded. Maybe I need to
Yeah,
shorten that up.
no, it's okay. Listen, I feel like, you know, be proud of your accomplishments. And I mean, the beautiful thing is that you're not even finished. You're continuously doing wonderful things. So that's what I love about you. Sean, let's talk about your childhood. I like to do these interviews talking about childhood, and certain touch points in your upbringing to that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. Well, I think I've always said every time a child is born, it's God telling us that He hasn't given up on us. So it's important for me that for a lot of people out there that's going to listen to this interview, to reflect that the child that we once were will ultimately be the adult that we are today. So we can either turn that into something good or turn that into something bad. But that reflection is extremely important because unfortunately, we don't get to choose who we're born from, right? We don't get to choose our parents. We don't get to choose our economics. And, but the beauty of America, which is the greatest country in the world, we have an opportunity to change those environments. And a lot of people don't. So I want to say, for me, I was born in the middle of the country. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest. Um, I I'm so fortunate that I have two parents, and I never knew anything differently. I think once I got into college and I saw, especially with African American men, they didn't have father figures, and I didn't really know what that was like because my dad showed up at all my games. So when I start to think about my entitlements and the things that made me who I am, um, you know, I bless God for just having two parents that really cared and gave me all they could. What we fail to realize is that a lot of things in our childhood are based off what our parents come from. You know, I always use the phrase mimic behavior. My father could only give me what he knew, right? Outside of, you know, institutional education, he gave me what he knew, what his mom and dad gave him. And part of that legacy is to give our kids more than what we had, right? All of us want to give our kids more opportunity, more access, more education, and ultimately not make it as hard as for them. I think our generation, including you, we are the children of civil rights leaders and civil rights movements. So I think we had a lot of pressure on us, but also we had a lot of access because we respected the fact that our parents fought for us to vote. Our parents fought for us to do the things that we do. Um, so when I look at my childhood, it is so much of who I am. And as I get older, I respect it more and more. I grew up in a very small town, 60,000 people in the middle of the country. Um, Obviously, in that demographic of the country, sport was extremely important. And I want to think because I was such a good athlete that I really escaped a lot of the racism and bullying that I probably would have dealt with because my school was probably 99% white. And you have to find how to coexist and survive.
Yes.
Uh, it wasn't something that I thought about, but it was something that I dealt with. I dealt with racism. I dealt with hearing the N word a lot and not being able to say anything or do anything. And I dealt with figuring out how to play the game. I think, if you think about what's going on right now, the division of what we have with obviously the leadership, the transition of leadership, uh,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are focusing on who the leader is instead of focusing on themselves.
That's right.
Um, I don't blame anyone for any of my problems, right? I don't blame a president. I don't blame a senator. I don't blame anyone. At the end of the day, those guys do make the policies that allow us to do the things that we want to do. But it's up to you for you to do what you need to do locally, which is, voting on your county, voting on your mayor, on the things that you know that you can touch, because you can't touch a president or a senator. So for me, growing up extremely conservative in a very all white town, very middle America, gave me a lens that afforded me to be able to move as I do now in the corporate world in New York City. Um, I understand the behavior of different types of people, and I don't use that against them. I use that for me to be able to navigate. So I never ever look at people and say, oh, wow, this is really unfortunate that I'm in this situation. No, I find a way to prosper the same way that I'm trying to do during this pandemic. What are you doing to make yourself better when things are bad? Those are the real superstars. Those are the people that actually get things done, right? When you find things that are really, really bad and you find a way to rise up and do something about it and have solutions versus talk about the problems, that was something that I found I did as a child. So for me, unfortunately, I had no other way to navigate but to just figure out how to fit in. And trying to fit in and do the things that I needed to do to prosper gave me the skill set as an adult to be able to figure out, situations where I know when I walk into a room what I look like and what I have to say, right? So I leaned on education for a lot because I always wanted to make sure that I had something to say and I could think for myself. I don't see the world as black and white. I see the world as gray. I wear gray all the time because of that. Gray is for thinkers. So I don't sit there and think about, well, man, this is unfortunate. I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z. No, I found a way to navigate. And I used that through my childhood all the way to college. And finally, having the opportunity to play in the pros for a few years. I saw a lot of different things that I felt needed to change. And the only way that you can do that is find solutions. So rather than talking about the problems, I focused on solutions. And the resume that you just read, in all those different aspects of philanthropy, finance,
Mm-mm,
entrepreneurship,
mm.
and leadership, and even bullying, right? I felt like those things were something that I was passionate about, but more importantly, they were my purpose. And I think, as a kid, I had a purpose really early in life because football was something that just was natural for me. I was blessed with a lot of speed, and it was fun. It was fun for me. And I was never judged on the football field. No one cared that my hair was slicked back or what kind of clothes I wore, because when I ran over you or I busted you in your lip, no one thought about my clothes. They thought about what a good athlete I was. So
Exactly.
that was important to me because it established something that was credible for me at that point in my life, that established confidence to move forward in anything that I wanted to do off the field. But for the most part, that was the core belief, was I was good at something. And a lot of kids, for the most part, don't find that they're good at anything until later in life. So that's why I created, Being to Know About Bullying, because I knew what it was like, or I didn't know what it was like, but I understood what it was like to be the last kid picked, because I was always the first kid picked, not realizing that that last kid that might be picked might be running a technology company one day, might be able to loan me some money.
That's right.
So, I always tell a lot of kids, being cute and having nice clothes in high school is cool. It ain't cool when you're old, when you have no money.
That's right.
What's cool is the nerds. What's cool is the guys that actually find ways to solve problems, and the guys that actually are doing things to change the world. What's cool is evolution. What's cool is doing the things that matter. And sometimes a lot of those kids don't have that when they're young. Luckily enough for me, I have so much empathy for those kids that I look back now and I think about, I could have been a better person. But I think a lot of it was innate. My parents always instilled in me to give back, to ask for what can I do first, then ask for what can you give. So I'm always looking to give before I actually receive, and I give because it's in me to help folks, and I want nothing back in return. So if you're giving to get something back, you're called a manipulator, just so you guys know that.
That's
So
right.
make sure that you give because you want to give. Don't give in thinking that you're going to get something back. It doesn't work that way. So I'm probably getting a little bit off subject, but I think a
Oh,
lot
you're
of it
good.
for me is, I'm glad that I was born where I was born. I think too, my love for African American history and the ideal of what I am stems from, I was born in Meridian, Mississippi in the 1960s. My dad was in Vietnam, and my mom he was stationed in Meridian, and she had to go there for me to be born. And I remember the stories that she told me of being kicked out of laundromats and
Mm.
things of that nature, where I was just in awe, like, wow, like we were really, I said, we were really kicked out of a laundromat. So, I'm old enough to respect that and understand that, you know, that things are evolving. I look at the NFL now, and there's six black quarterbacks. Um, I'm watching The Bachelor now. There's this guy named Matt James, who's the first black bachelor.
Oh, that's
I
right.
got to live through Barack Obama. So
Yeah.
all those things are extremely important to me, because a lot of things that I never thought I would see in my childhood, because I lived it,
Hmm.
you know, I had to navigate and date white girls, and hopefully their dad didn't find out. And I had guns pulled on me. I could tell you a whole bunch of things that people don't know, of
That's
just
right.
trying to coexist as a teenager, and not being around other black people and not really seeing other black people like me until I got to college.
Man, that's interesting. And I remember a while back when you and I would just have our long conversations and talking about family values. And we both talked about our parents. And help me remember, your parents were born what year again?
I was born in '69. My dad just turned 70. He's 2 years older than me. He just turned 74, and my mom is going to about be 72 in March,
But
and
we were
I'll be 52 in March.
right, exactly. So you and I are on the same age. And so I remember the conversations we had about, the civil rights movement and me being from New Orleans, you Louisiana, you being from Mississippi, those dynamics as we know. And then our parents, my mom and dad were born in 24 and 27, so they had me in their 40s. So the stories um, that my siblings and I heard were quite interesting and shocking at the same time. And
Mhm.
so now when I look at the like you said, the word evolution, we were always taught to be independent thinkers, to do for self. We were very conservative in nature, but at the same time, very, you know, business mind oriented. You
Yeah,
know, didn't wait for anybody to do anything for us. And when I look at you and look at our upbringing, we're still that way. We
yeah,
don't blame anybody for any challenges. We know challenges exist, but at the end of the day, as I always say, we keep it moving. So, it's interesting to hear your story, and how you ended up developing to being this voice to protect young people, um, to make them feel great about themselves, and you do a great job. Let's talk about, you mentioned football. Let's talk about your interest in football. At what age, when did you start realizing um, that this is where you wanted to go? Take me through that journey.
well, I think I had great role models. What I can say is that I come from a family of athletes, so I know that that had something to do with just the visual of seeing, right? I always say this: kids can only be what they see. um, and for me, you know, those civil rights people were my uncles and my aunts. They're all in their 70s and 80s now, and I was lucky enough to be around. I had three professional athletes in my family. One of them who I'm really close to, his name is John Exaby Irvin. He played for the Kansas City Royals, and he's 2 years older than my mother. And he also has an MBA from the University of Kansas. So that for me was normal. Like I didn't know anything different. Like I'm like, well, I'm supposed to do that. So I think I say that in the sense that so many kids don't have that, right?
That's right.
The NBA was just as important as him being a pro athlete, right?
Exactly.
So, I went and got my MBA. So, those things were extremely important to me. But I think, um, as I said earlier, when we are good at something and people applaud us,
Hmm.
it makes us feel a certain way.
Yes.
There are, certain, things that happen inside you when you're celebrated at an early age. And that's why I found this organization, because I saw so many kids that weren't good at something. And it does go back to demographic. I grew up where sport was extremely important, right? People didn't care if you were super duper smart, but if you ran touchdowns on Friday nights, they applauded you. So for me, it allowed me to navigate and do things with a different demographic of people. And that in itself really helped me cultivate to what I became. But I really had the ability, based off, I had so many role models in front of me. And I'm so thankful. That's another entitlement I had. I had a lot of good Black men that showed me what it was to be. And I was able to mimic their behavior. I always say, if you want to be something, seek that person out and mimic their behavior.
That's right.
They will take you where you want to go. And the things that you're not willing to do, if you're not willing to do it, you're not going to be it. And I was willing to do the things that it took to be a pro athlete and the discipline behind that. So sport really allowed me to feel good about myself. It
Mhm.
created opportunity for education. It created opportunity to get recruited. And all those things, those fill you up with ambition, and more importantly, a mission of what's your purpose in life. And I use sport as the door opening thing to the things that I was going to see after sports was over, because it allowed me and afforded me relationships and access to people that I might have never touched.
Hey, that's so accurate and so true. And going back to your influencers, your role models, who were some of those teachers, influencers, and role models? I mean, it's a blessing as a Black male to
Yeah,
have not only your father but your uncles and other people, not just in the athletic world, but finance, business. You
yeah,
saw them doing things in the community.
yeah. Well, for me, I mean, um, I think there were so many good role models. If we just think about like all the men that are 70 and 80 years old and older, those are the guys that laid the groundwork for us to be able to navigate in the way that you and I are navigating.
Yes.
And we still saw a lot of racism and a lot of things that were unfortunate, but we were able to navigate it because they laid the map out and we just had to follow it. So many. I mean, I think of, you know, um, Wilt Chamberlain. I think of like some of my fraternity brothers, Arthur Ashe.
Yes.
All these guys are Kappas. Uh,
Cap
I
out
think
side.
so many people that once I got to college, I started to navigate. But as a child, I really, people might look at this in a bad way. One of my heroes was O.J. Simpson,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and people don't know that O.J. was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he was.
OJ was doing things that were non-football related, and I saw that as, wow, this guy is different. And people are like, well, why do you think he's different? I'm like, I don't see football players running through airports doing Hertz commercials. I don't see football players while they're still playing football, acting in movies. He opened a door for opportunity that was actually outside of football.
Yes, he
No,
did.
we were told that we were just to entertain and to do sport, and that was it. So OJ for me, early in my life, was a very good role model just to see someone that looked like me. And then, of course, the ultimate hero for me was Muhammad Ali,
Oh yeah.
uh, because my dad loves Ali, and and I remember just as a young boy, and I actually wrote this. It was just published. The first time I ever saw someone like Ali say, "I'm pretty." I'm too pretty to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I'm 6'3", 230 pounds, and I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And that stuck because I was like, he's not supposed to say that. White people don't like that.
That's
And
right.
he did. He did it anyway.
Oh,
And that for me, it to this day puts chills through my bones because I was like, well, if he can say it, I can say it, which goes back to my point of you can only be what you see. So for me, Muhammad Ali laid the groundwork of opportunity, access, and to be able to speak out of turn if you know what you're speaking about and if it's on the right side of history. So I always tell people we celebrate him now. Ali was hated. People hated Muhammad Ali,
right.
especially when he changed his name from Cassius Clay. So for me, I was like, you want to talk about courage? You want to talk about not benefiting for himself? You want to talk about selflessness? It's Muhammad Ali. So he was my ultimate hero. And the ideal that someone that looked like me, that was a black man, that said he was pretty, um, and was the heavyweight champion of the world. It wasn't like he was pretty and I'm a model or I'm a Hollywood movie star. No, Muhammad Ali would knock you out.
That's
So
right.
for me, that was the uplifting thing for me to be like, no, like I look like that, I can be that,
That's right.
right? So those gave me those kind of statements, even when I knew they were uncomfortable statements, and you had to be something to be able to say that, were inspiring and motivated me to do more than just be an athlete.
Hey man, listen, I appreciate that, and especially using Muhammad Ali as that example. He and so many others, but more so um, because I used to live in Chicago, and we all used to attend the well, at the time it was called the temple, the mosque, and I would see him and his family and his children there, and just seeing him, Muhammad Ali, the man, that boldness, that confidence gave many of us, not just in the community, but throughout the world, that confidence to say to yourself, hey, black man, hey, black woman, you can do this. You don't need to be told that you can't do certain things. I hear a lot of times, you're right. He's a part of our history that will always be a part of the fabric, but is also continuous as we continue to go on our journey. And the blessing, like I said, you had different people in your life, in your family, who were there for you, which many young men today don't have that. I mean, not to say they don't have it, but it's not as it was years ago. Um, Sean, when you went through your athletic career for some time, and you embarked upon the finance philanthropy sector, and I follow you on social media like a million other people, but just you, man, you have done so many great things, and you're not even done. Like you're almost 52 years old.
I love that you say I'm not even done. That gives me hope.
Yeah, man, you
For
mean you're not
everyone,
even done.
yeah, like for everyone, including us, off the record, what we were talking about, just like getting through this pandemic.
Oh.
Like I had a lot of revenue streams stop, and then I thought about I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, in a nice apartment. I've afforded and built a pretty good life for myself. And you just stop to think about, why did this happen? Why everyone's on pause, right? And trying to figure out, navigate what they're going to do and how they're going to pay their bills, and how they're going to feed their children, and how people got through the holidays and all that.
Hmm.
And it just shows you that we all can persevere. I wish that we could lean on one another more. But for me, I was always fascinated with economics
Hmm.
and the bottom line and truth. And math is truth, right? How they say numbers never lie.
No, you're right.
There's all kinds of theories, and there's all kinds of different things that we can, philosophize about. But for the most part, for me, it was always about the bottom line, even in football, right? Like stats don't lie. What did you do? Right? What did you contribute? And for me, I played running back. What did I do outside not running the ball? Like I looked at all the things that didn't matter, but
Mm.
were important to me. And those are the little things. And I think why I became fascinated with finance was the bottom line is always the number that they circle, but it's the little things to get to that number. So understanding how math works and how uh, economics works is really was empowering to me, and I wanted to be able to see that I could help professional athletes, more importantly people that I knew, and being able to give them an advantage of just being competent in a space where we're just now, in the last 20 years seeing black billionaires and finance people, or people in corporations that are doing well, that are people of color. um, when I first finished playing football, I wanted to be a sports agent. So I went to law school at Fordham, and I ended up dropping out. I went to a year law school, and the guy that was my agent was in New York, and he had went to Harvard. And I didn't really come from that pedigree. I didn't come from a family that went to Ivy League schools. I didn't come from the elite black, you know, New York City, my dad sits on the board of directors type family. So that was new for me. And being in that space, I was able to meet a lot of people that I was like, wow, I didn't know this guy did this. I didn't know this guy was a managing director at this bank. I didn't know that this guy was a vice president. And to my point earlier, I was able to see things that I didn't know existed. And it inspired me to say, I want to do that. What do I have to do to do it?
Right.
And a lot of it was based off education. So I just basically was like, I'm gonna dive into this thing. I don't really see myself working on Wall Street, but I'm gonna figure out what I need to do to be able to help people financially. Because even as a philanthropist, at the end of the day, money talks, economics talk, right?
Right.
I think if we put the blue party and the red party aside, I always say this: follow the money. That's where your answer is going to be. And if we follow the money, we'll know what's going on. And so I have my own theories that I won't get into.
Of
But if
course.
you follow the money and just watch in any aspects, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, if you run a 7-Eleven shop, a Dunkin' Donuts, follow the money and you'll find out who's stealing from you, who's worthy to be working for you, and more importantly, how you're going to make a living. And so I embraced that and wanted
Mm.
to be able to understand it on another level. And I was lucky enough to get in rooms that I probably shouldn't have been. And now I'm supposed to be in those rooms because I worked for it. So finance just came hand in hand for me because I was fascinated with numbers, and I knew that numbers never lied. Um, I knew that when anything came down to it, if you show me, your P&L, your profit and loss sheet, I'll be able to figure out how to help you. And that's a truth that no one can deny. There's not a lot of truths that we have right here today. Even when we talk about parties, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, whatever it might be, it's always the bottom line: follow the money. And that's where the truth lies. So I felt empowered by being able to know the truth. And a lot of that comes through economics. So that was my motivation to get into finance, but more importantly, now I use it as a tool to help people and
Yeah.
really educate people and just give them an understanding that, from our demographic and when we grew up, that maybe 90% of women didn't even know how to balance a checkbook
Yeah. You're right.
because the man held the money and he was the breadwinner. All those things are changing now. So, as we've evolved and you being the entrepreneur that you are,
Mhm.
and understanding that I have to make money to be able to support my family and do the things that I want to do in the world, as much as it doesn't matter, money doesn't matter, it does.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep it 100. Money does matter. It does give you the comfort and the stability to be able to breathe. A lot of Black people, for the most part, we've been stressed our entire lives
Yeah.
based off what? Financial freedom. Most people go in debt, especially people that live under poverty line, of just burying a grandmother or burying a parent,
That's right.
right? So these little things for me bothered me because I was like, when I started to think about, you know, the dollar in the African American community and the people that I try to support, I don't support them just because they're African American. I support them because they have a good business and they happen to be Black. And I can say this, when we think about the dollar in our community, in the Asian community, it stays in the community 37 days. In the Jewish community, 22 days. And in the white community, 7 days. In the Black community, 3 hours. And
Yeah.
what that means is that we don't have any ownership. We don't have any economic power, but we do have the power to make money, but we give it back
Yes.
to someone that doesn't look like us. And those things are important to me. So for me, it's all about economics. It's all about, empowering yourself through, entrepreneurship, investments, and having an understanding of how you can actually, build wealth and how to pass that on.
Man, you just spoke a lot of wisdom, that needs to be another conversation or series of workshops, especially for our young people. Young people who either want to be athletes, young people who want to go into finance, who want to be celebrities and superstars. Um, but that investment aspect is very important. Just hearing those numbers. Keeping it in certain communities, our communities. We really got to start them off very, very young with
Hmm.
that type of mindset, and you were one of the blessed ones. I was one of the blessed ones, and there are many others, but it's up to you and me, our generation, to continue to have these conversations with young
Yeah.
people. It's so important. Not and I always say, there are 28 days in February. We celebrate Black History 24/7. I
Yeah.
mean,
Every day.
I never have to be reminded that I'm Black. I know who I am, and I don't need to really talk about it. I just exist and keep it moving and doing the things that I need to do to empower me and my loved ones in my community. And
Yeah.
that's what I hear in you and all the wonderful things that you do, Sean. You
Thank
know, you were going to say something?
you. Now I was going to make a point, to your point. Um, you know, One of my foundations it's an empowerment to actually educate young people, and that gap of really them being sponges and wanting to learn is 8 to 14. But to your point, when you said teach them really young, the problem and the resolution is this: the problem is that Black folks don't want to talk about things that are uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about death, and we don't want to talk about finances. And when you look at wealthy people that I happen to be able to work with, they talk about it day one with their kids. Kids know what they're getting, they know what's in the will, they know what to do with it,
That's right.
right? And I always use this analogy, the ideal of being able to tell your kids and understand, even what a life insurance policy can do, even what, being able to set up a trust early, and instead of buying your kids Air Jordans, take that money and buy Nike stock. These simple things that we don't learn because we for the most part, a lot of Black people feel good by the way that we look. That validates us. It's our clothes and the things that we have. And those are just things. And hey, I'm a victim too. I'm motivated by things. I like nice things.
Yep.
For the most part, when you understand financial literacy, having ownership of something and having assets versus liabilities will change your life, because those things allow those assets to make money. And when you have the ability to make money while you're still working, those things will change your life. And you teach those to your children, and we pass those things down. But to my point, that uncomfortable conversation,
Hmm.
even with my dad, I mean, I've been in this business for 15 years. You know, every Christmas I sit down with my dad and we go to IHOP. My mom doesn't get to come, just me and my dad. And we sit, it's usually the day after Christmas, and we order our pancakes and we talk. And last year was the first time I ever talked to my dad about, you know, moving on, like the last chapter of his life. And as uncomfortable it was, I was 51 years old when I had that conversation, when I have it with 30-year-olds every day in my office. So even with our own understanding of ourselves, because no one ever had it with him,
Yes.
something that you didn't talk about. I'm like, Dad, do you have, is everything set up? Are you prepared? And it's uncomfortable. And my dad did well in life, right? My dad he did a good job. He's retired. And I remember him just kind of looking at me like, well, I do. I go, well, we should talk about that. It was so uncomfortable in the beginning. And then just to have that understanding that that should have been done at 15. That should have been done at 12, right?
Yes.
But he didn't have the tools to do that. So that generation, I'm a different generation. I'm going to have that if I ever do have children one day, or if I'm not, or even on the show, I have the ability to talk about it. But
That's
and I don't want to just say Black people. I hate doing that anymore. But for the most part, you know, people that don't come from a lot of economic power or wealth
exactly.
don't have those conversations. And I've seen people go bankrupt on burying a loved one. And it shouldn't be that way.
No, it
A lot
shouldn't.
of that's just based off an uncomfortable conversation that it becomes so comfortable that it's no longer uncomfortable because we have it early. We set down our kids and we talk about financial literacy. We talk about what it is to balance a checkbook. We talk about credit card debt. We talk about all these things, a good credit score, how important that is to be able to borrow, right? Not use our own money, help use the bank as a partner. Like all these things matter,
Yes, they do.
and we don't learn them until after we mess up. So just wanted to say that.
No, no, I'm glad you did say that. That is very important, and you're right. Many times, it's not just limited to the African American community. There's so many people that are struggling um, from a major diverse perspective, and just having those conversations um, that folks don't want to have are ideal because they'll probably say, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. You're a baby. You're young. You don't need to worry about that now." But think about kids who parents die very young.
Yeah,
You know, um, that's another topic.
yeah,
Or not even, when I say young, 10, 11, 12 years old, even someone in their 20s,
yeah.
and so who didn't have the opportunity to even have that conversation, what to do next. So these things are very important. Um, Let me ask you something. I ask this question often, and I'm gonna ask it to you. If you had to describe your personal style, your differentiator, um, as Sean James, the philanthropist, the financial guru, the everything, the athlete or the humanitarian. Pretty much, I just said all those things that differentiate you, but still, how would you describe yourself?
Um, that's hard. I think
Act like you're Muhammad Ali.
I think New York City exposed me to a lot of things that I was extremely uncomfortable with, but was very fascinated with, and I wanted to be. Um, I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to be an athlete, and I wanted to be able to give back. Right.
Yes.
The difference between charity and philanthropy is to solve problems. Charity is to give. And I
Hmm.
wanted to be a philanthropist. I wanted to solve problems. I just didn't want to write checks and give people money. I wanted to get to the root of the problem. And that instilled belief system of mine separates me from everyone. I'm willing to go into the cage with the Doberman pincher and grab the money and get bit because I know it's going to heal. I'm willing to run into a inside linebacker and take a hit if it's going to propel the team to get a first down. And some of these things I think are innate, but some of them I learned through being inspired by other people. As we mentioned, Muhammad Ali or yourself or any entrepreneur out there. Um, I think, there's so many different layers of my life that, as you said, and I love that you said that because, there's days I get down on myself where I'm not doing enough or I feel like I didn't accomplish enough, but I don't do it for people. I do it for myself. And I think that's where it all starts. I think we live in this superficial social medium world where we do things for others to gloat versus doing things for ourselves. As I mentioned to you off the record, the things I post on my Instagram are for me. I'm someone that's dealt with depression. I'm someone that, I had an alcoholic father who's now sober 45 years. I've seen a lot of things and I've seen a lot of people overcome those things. So every day for me, I wake up and, I think about what can I turn that negative into a positive? And a lot of it's just, um, feeling that I can solve problems and get to the root cause of the things that inspire people. And if
Mm-hmm.
I can share those things versus keeping those things to myself, and I had a friend that I interviewed maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and he said this. He goes, "I never understood the people that had the answers that didn't want to share them. Uh, you're doing a disservice to the world."
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
if you're really good at and you're going to be able to do those things, you sharing them ain't going to change the light shining on you. Your light's still going to shine. So I want to give everything that I can. I live in a place of gratitude. I want to make sure that people understand that saying thank you and having gratitude are two different things. I have gratitude for you. I have gratitude for those people that see someone like me and say, you know what, let me interview this young man and see if he can share some of the things that he's experienced. And a lot of them aren't good, right? I've been able to navigate on things that weren't great and turn them into great things because I use them as a learning experience. And so many times you see people that get on podcasts and interviews like this and they just talk about their success. And I don't see enough people talking about what led to your success and how many times did you get it wrong. Um, you know, I think um, when we start to think about even, the things that are out there and how people allow them to actually be great. Before Burger King, there was McDonald's, right? And if you look at every Burger King in any city across the country, within at least 500 yards, there will be a McDonald's.
Yep.
So the ideal is that we can both, there's so much out there for everyone to have. There's so much money out there for everyone to have. And the ability to understand that just because you have it and I want it, you can't have it. That mentality will never get you anywhere.
That's
I've
right.
always been someone that was able to celebrate others and celebrate the ones that don't celebrate me. I'm okay if you don't like me, you don't know me, but if I can still love you and respect what you're doing, I'm okay with that. And I think when you have that ability to understand that, um, you hating on someone is not going to dim their light. If anything, it's going to make them shine even brighter. I said there's two ways that you can pay people. You can pay attention to them or you can pay them with your checkbook. So it's really important that even the people that are hating on you, they're paying attention to you because
Yeah.
they have time to pay attention to you. That means that they actually are watching what you're doing. So I don't know if I answered the question, but for me, it's really about uplifting people and it's living in a place of gratitude and creating opportunities and really finding the people that I love and admire in New York City that gave me the ability to be able to go up and say, listen, I see what you do. I'm not good at it, but I want to learn. 90% of the time, that person will help you. And I want to be that to that person that I was 25 years ago when I was 25.
And you are just that. As you were talking, I was taking some notes on my phone, and wrote down a couple of words. The word real, authenticity. You are that. And um, you mentioned about social media, your Instagram page, and you do have a lot of followers. But here's the thing: you are really one of the ones who are keeping it real. Because we all know, I always say, social media has become the Hallmark card It has become a facade for many people, and that's okay. You know, some people need to vent. It's like a venting moment. You know, some people need to share.
Yeah.
But but the stuff that I see you post and the stuff that I see me post, trust me, it's real 100%. I have nothing to hide. I'm very candid. I think sometimes people tell me I'm a little bit too candid.
Yeah.
um, you know, there's no room for envy. You're that kind of person. You know, I see the words that you use. Thank, thank you, gratitude, appreciation. Just same with me. And
Yeah.
I've always tried, you know, in my 52 years, I've always tried to associate myself with like-minded people like yourself. Now, I'm not saying, you know, of course you're going to run into folks who don't think the way you do, but that's okay. You know, you can always have folks out there who are looking at stuff that you're posting or looking at stuff you're doing. Who does he think and what does she think she is? End of the day, it doesn't matter because God gets the glory.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, none of this stuff will come to me. You
At
know,
all.
none of it will come to me. But it's important that we leave behind a legacy.
Yeah.
So when I see you do those things, like the fact that you openly talked about depression, many people don't like talking about that, especially as an African American male.
Yeah.
So many of us, not just African American people, but so many of us and people suffer from depression. And, you know, the idea of having a therapist, people say, oh, that person has a therapist. That person's cuckoo. We all need a therapist. Ain't
Yeah.
nothing wrong with having a therapist.
At
You know,
all.
sometimes, you know, you may not be able to talk to your husband, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever. You can't talk to them. They're too close to it. But sometimes you need somebody outside of that to have that conversation with. So I appreciate those things that you share, and I applaud you for that, man, because a lot of folks aren't open enough to even share that.
Yeah. Well,
Even
thank you. I mean, I think, I think I see so many people repost and repost motivational quotes. And I always think like, if you are doing 50% of the things that you post, right? Like a lot of people don't keep it 100, right?
no,
And these are skill sets that we all have. The number one is being able to listen, um, and not talk, and not think about the response more than actually hearing the people and what they have to say. I think even in relationships, like the number one failure in business and relationship is communication.
that's
And it's
right.
actually being heard and knowing that what you say matters, right? The idea that you told me that you are hurt by X. I need to really think about what that means and what motivates me to understand what that means and have some type of empathy to understand that my empathy is basically me being in that person's shoes and having an understanding of what they're going through. And, I always tell people highly intelligent people have a lot more empathy because they're thinkers, right? They don't see black and white. They actually have the ability to think about people that are going through something. And if they have that kind of time, as I told you earlier, there's two ways that you're going to pay people in life: by paying attention or your checkbook. And highly active people that make money, that are successful with their time and they understand time management, when they have empathy to be able to think outside the box, their companies flourish as well, right? You can look at any great company, right? Like people, not Jeff Burrows, like this guy was just finding a way to send books quicker than anyone else. But
Yeah,
look what it turned into, right? And I think for me, being able to define the difference between motivation and inspiration is extremely important, right? Motivating is to get the fire behind someone to push them forward.
yeah,
Inspiring is something completely different. Inspiring is something that makes people feel good to want to motivate to do something. So
yes,
those are two different words. And for me, it's really, you know, going out there and messing up, going out there and falling down and getting back up, right? Don't let that fear stop you from doing the things that you want to do in life. Like it's extremely important for you to have a fall, right? It's extremely important for you to mess up, right? You will not get it right. And everyone out there that's successful, that you see is successful, they've messed up,
that's
right?
right.
It will always be an understanding for me that I've messed up so many times. I messed up in relationships. I've messed up with business. I've made some bad investments. I've been bankrupt. I've made millions.
Hmm.
I can say that, right? I can say that. I wasn't secure enough to say that at 40. I've messed some stuff up. And
Yeah, man, I can relate.
when someone comes, when I lead with the truth, it sets the example of these are the bad qualities that I had, but these are
Mhm.
the good things that I can bring to you. And I don't present myself as being perfect. And I think too many young people want to be perfect. They want to be perfect on Instagram. They want to be perfect in life. They want to be able, and it doesn't work that way,
That's right.
right? And I think our generation was different because people didn't get to see our mess ups, right? Now everyone can see it. An athlete does something, it's on social media, right? It's like you can't win, right? A politician does something, it's on social media. And for me, I always tell people be better fans to people,
Mm,
right? Be good, be better fans to the people that you care about,
that's right.
right? If you're really a good fan and your favorite player doesn't do right, do you stop liking them? No, you figure out a way to navigate because you want him to be good. You want him to be able to be successful. So for me, um, having those belief systems in place and practicing them the same way that I lift weights, the same way that I teach financial literacy, and doing it every day, it does become second nature. What happens is someone posts something on Instagram and they regurgitate something that someone else says, but they don't live by it. And
Yes.
those are the things that bother me. Because I know a lot of people that have
Mm,
unbelievable pages of unbelievable inspirational quotes and don't live by those quotes. Try to live by the things that you post,
that's
right?
right. I agree.
If you look at your social media, because now this is such a platform for young people, not so much for you and me. We're a little bit older, so those things don't really matter. But for the most part, this new generation, I'm talking to 25-year-olds that actually had Facebook when they were 5.
Yeah,
Like they grew up on it,
that's
right? Like
right.
you have a son. So, it's a different beast out there. And I always say, it's not always the act, it's the response.
That's right.
People will forgive your act. Like if you messed up, let me say that again. If you messed up, if you screwed up, right? What defines you is how you respond to your screw up. That's what they'll remember.
Hmm.
That's where your integrity comes in, right? That you man up
That's right.
and you say, listen, I messed up. What can I do to fix it?
Exactly.
And if we can do that every single day, I do it to myself, literally. Like, y'all might think this is weird. When I brush my teeth in the morning, a lot of times I have my shirt off. And a lot of times I look down and there's been times where I had a gut, it didn't look good because it's important to me because a lot of what defines me is the way that I look.
Hmm.
That isn't being what you call a narcissist. No, it's a part of who I am. Part of who I am is the way that I look. Now you
That's
can take
right.
that any way that you want, but a part of who I am is the way that I look. Not for
Amen.
you, for me.
That's right.
So when I brush my teeth and I look at myself and I'm not happy with myself, I get down on myself. And how I respond to that is, what are you going to do about it, Sean? What are you going to do? And there's good days and bad days. Some days I eat better. I go to the gym. I find ways to motivate myself. But as I told you, motivation and inspiration are two different things.
That's right.
What creates a fire to get me moving and to do the things that I want to do in life? And I tell all young people out there, you're not going to get it right all the time. But the more that you try to get it right, the better you're going to become. But understand the response is more important to the world than the act. People go and lose their lives for the act or the
Mm,
response. People forgive all the time. We forgive the people that we love, right? Just come back and tell the truth. Because at the end of the day, we'll find out. The truth will always come out. So you
amen.
might as well just lead with it. So, I've worked on that because there's a lot of people that I didn't want to hurt, or I was in situations where I wanted to be the good guy all the time versus
Hmm.
telling the truth and saying, hey, this is how it's going. And it has nothing to do with me doing something bad. It's just I didn't want to hurt the other person. So
That's
there's
right.
many different ways to look at that. So when I think about those things and why I'm talking about it so much, it's important to me. And it's a value that I didn't know how to articulate 10 years ago. I didn't have the words to be able to articulate what I'm saying right now. And a lot of that becomes deep seated in you being able to find those words because words matter. And I always tell athletes, I said, it's really important the things that you say outside that football field, because those things, and you know this as a PR person, can generate money. So having the ability to speak well and speak in a way that's passionate about what you love, people can tell. And that's why people hopefully follow you, because they understand that you're passionate about what you do and what you say. And it's not just an act.
Man, you are speaking some serious wisdom for our young people, for for us adults as well. And you're just bringing me back to so many different situations in our lives. I've always been taught to speak the truth regardless of circumstances. You deal with it later on.
Yeah.
And going into that, let's go back to your organization, Sean. I really want to touch on that briefly. Your organizations and other involvements. You've got the Sean James Foundation, you've got the Know About Bullying, you have Left Side, Strong Side, Bequest. Then you were a Ford model. And I see you different appearances on television, on sports channels. I think you did something recently, either prior to Super Bowl when you were speaking on behalf of the NFL or whatever. Let's talk about that. That other side of Sean.
Um, I think, I mean, the philanthropic part is just something that I've always been doing my entire life. I was involved. I was in high school. I got involved with the Special Olympics at the age of ninth grader. So I was 15, and I created an organization as a student leader for the Special Olympics. So I would go out and recruit other athletes and other people in my school to go run with um, the Special Olympics when it would come to our town. So that was probably my first sense of activism, where it was really organized and it was like thought out, and I had to do something. I had to get other people involved. Um, and I think, that all stems from my parents, just being able to give back, if it was at the church or, I just would see my mom, do things for people that she didn't have to do. And I always thought that that was really cool, because I knew what it made people feel, right? Like the idea of making people feel good and creating safe spaces is really important to me. Um, so any organization that I started to think about that I wanted to be a part of, um, from Sean James Student Athletes, was really about, the access that I had and the entitlement that I had. And how that organization started was, I was involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters in New York City. And I
Mm-hmm.
got a kid by the name of Joseph Williams who lived in Harlem. And he was a 14-year-old kid, single parent family. His mother, was trying to do what she could to support these kids. And long story short, Joseph was able to go to a Catholic school, and he was the first one to graduate from his family. And out of that experience, I was able to start Sean James Student Athletes. But more importantly, I was able to get the creative people in there as well, because I always felt like athletes and creatives were never ever thought of as intellectuals.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that stigma. I
Mm.
didn't like the fact that, people would say, well, he's a dumb jock, or he's an actor, so he can't be smart. And I
Yes.
lived in New York City, so I was around all these finance Ivy League people, and I'm like, I'd walk into rooms, I'm like, I'm smarter than anyone. I would say this to myself. I'm like, he ain't as smart as I thought he was. But the stigma that he went to an Ivy League school made him think, and made me think that he was.
Right.
So as you go through that, through my 20s and 30s, I realized, let me make sure that I empower these athletes and these artists, these creatives that I found to be unbelievably smart. Let me make sure they understand that they have intellectual properties too. And when you combine the three of those things, athletics, intellectual properties, and the artistic part of who you are, that's when you have someone that's well-rounded. And I wanted to make sure that all young people understood that no one can put you in a box. You can be good at multiple things, right? I don't play football anymore, but at one point I used to be pretty good at running the football, right? Like that doesn't define me, right? So that means that I can't think and speak properly and understand math and help people with their financial literacy, or do the things that I've done. Well, if society was to say, yes, that would be all that I would be good at, and that's what society's accepted me in. I was accepted as being a good football player, but will you accept me as being an executive? Will you accept me as being a CEO? Will
Yes.
you look at me the same light that you did when I had that football helmet on? And I didn't like that stigma, so I wanted to change it, right? Going back to, we could talk about problems all day. What is the solution? My
Yes.
solution was creating this foundation. The bullying aspect, as I told you, I felt like enough athletes weren't doing and using their brands and their likability and their credibility to spin that on its head. We were these big, tough players. And for the most part, athletes are bullies. We're the first in line, we're the first to do something because we want to succeed. But I wanted to spin that on its head because I knew so many good people that I played with and teammates that were actually leaders. And so I wanted to get rid of the stigma of athletes being bullies and tough, mean guys and more looked at as leaders, right? Tom Brady is a leader.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes is a leader, right? These guys get paid a lot of money to lead their teams. It's no different than a CEO in an office, right? It's no different than a president or a senator. You have to lead by the people, right? And good leaders, for the most part, aren't about them, they're about the people. And I wanted to make sure that kids understood that leading isn't about you, it's about what you do and how you empower others. So those are the two things that motivated me to do that. I feel like my bullying program is more of a leadership program, and I love education. I love kids. I've been working with kids over 30 years, and I just see so many great parents and not great parents do things that really hurt their child's growth. We coddle our kids too much. We don't give them examples of what they need to do, and we need to be able to understand choices and how we make those choices and how we give them choices, right? Like I always say, I didn't get to tell my dad when I wanted to go to bed, but I did get to choose what sneakers I was going to wear. And slowly but surely, he gave me more and more responsibility to make choices. And by the time I was 18, he was like, okay, now you're on your own, right? And there's accountability on your choices. So, and I messed up and I was able to recover because of how I was brought up. So I think it's important that we understand that the choices that we give our kids are based off understanding that you are the adult and you are not a friend of your child. You are still the mom, you are still the dad, you are the parent. I don't want to be friends with my kids. I want my kids to be fucking a little scared of me sometimes, right?
Right.
Because that's accountability, right? So those things are really important to me. So, just having that understanding of when that happens and someone that studies human behavior, I can speak on it because I know about it. So that's where the root of the two organizations came. And then obviously Bequest Management was just, a lifetime of working in finance, a lifetime of working in sports, a lifetime of just understanding management and really seeing that the organizations that were doing a lot of damage to some of the players that I was working with weren't representing the very root things that I believe in. And so I created a company that could address those things, which was financial literacy, financial management, being able to understand and teach my individuals so they understood what it was to raise a family and how important it is to be an entrepreneur and create your own wealth and understand how to evaluate organizations, because it's never about the organization, it's always about the people inside the organization. A lot of times the people inside the organizations aren't looking out for your best interests.
Yes, that's true.
So
That's true. Man, that's a lot of good stuff you've been doing, man. And I appreciate all that you bring to the table, what you do for the community, just globally. If you had to think about one of your most memorable transcending moments, what would I'm sure you have had several. What would that be?
man, there's so many because there's like categories, like there's like the sport aspect of like, what it's like to play in front of people and not knowing when you're actually playing in front of a bunch of people, knowing that it'll never happen again. I can never get that back.
Wow.
That just it brings joy to me that I was able to do that, right? Like when you're playing, you don't realize it because it's all you knew since you were 8 years old. Most of us started playing tackle football at 8. So when that's gone, to really be honest, that's where a lot of the depression sets in with a lot of the African American players because they don't really know how to transition out of that. They don't really know what it is to go get a job and how to find that joy again. Um, so that would be, one category, and then there's a business category of me doing like a big deal and making like significant amount of money and what joy that brought. And but I think for me, honestly, it was the first time that I was on television, NBC, and I talked about being in the know about bullying. Kind of when I look back at that, I kind of looked at myself, and after I saw it on TV, I kind of had a tear come down my eye because it was like,
Mm.
man, I really said I wanted to do this, and
Yes.
it really happened. And it happened because I wanted it to happen. And it didn't happen because someone, you know, gave me the opportunity. I thought about it and I wrote it and I lived with it and I slept with it and it became my baby. And then to actually see, being interviewed and people asking me why I did it, a lot of people were like, were you bullied? Were you, and a lot of it's just based off, it was inside of me because of who I came from, right? The
Yes,
people
that's
that are
right.
around me. Like I always was in rooms where people cared about the good, and being in those rooms where people don't care. I had to navigate through my 20s and 30s because a lot of people can be threatened by just your existence, just who you are, the joy that you bring to people. And I had to navigate that because, we all want to be liked. We all want to make sure that we don't, you know, you don't know why people don't like you,
Hmm.
right? And as you get older, I think around 40, it hit me where I was like, I don't care. And that's hard to say because I do care.
Yeah.
And once you start to understand that you cannot make everyone happy, you cannot make everyone feel good about themselves, and your decisions on what you do, they have to be for you first.
That's right.
Because then you're not living your life for yourself. And so when that happened for me and I got to see that the empowerment of, because I think people throw the word bullying around way too much and they
Hmm.
don't really understand what it is. And they don't know the definition of bullying, and they don't really know, it's just a word to throw around like he bullied me or she bullied me. We're living in this world now where so many things are crossfiring, right? With,
Hmm.
you got, the women's liberation, and you have, the gays and the blacks and this and that, all these different things where everyone's trying to, I want to be heard, it's about us right now.
That's
And
right.
it's really hurting us collectively because we all want the same thing. We
Right.
all want opportunity, and we all want to be heard.
You're right, man. I mean, there's so much happening, and the word bullying itself goes in many different directions.
Yeah,
It happens with our youth. It happens in the corporate spaces. It happens in just everywhere. We can go on and on. I you have been on several news stations. I actually did see the NBC piece, but you've also written several articles about your programs, your organizations. That was some great stuff that you've done, man. I have to say, I mean, keep doing it. Keep
yeah.
doing what you're doing.
That's what I wish I could do more of. I wish I could talk about, I wish I had a better platform where I could actually speak more and write. I mean, I think I'm a better writer than I am a speaker.
Yes,
I
I
think
think you
have
said it both.
I have more layers. I have more layers to give in the sense of like mental illness, um, what's going on with, especially with African American men, like this
Yeah,
facade that these guys put on Instagram and social. I'm like, it's so bad to the point I stopped doing a lot of this stuff, right? Like I love watches and shoes, and I would post something because I thought it looked dope, or I was like, this looks good. And I stopped doing it so much now because I'm seeing these kids, you know, trying to create a facade. You're 18. Like when I was 18, I had no money, right? I was trying to figure out how I was going to eat, right? Like, don't like, and
yeah,
I'm going to say this. I might not get the response people want. Athletes and entertainers, especially black entertainers, have hurt a lot of the perception of what our kids think they are.
hmm,
Right?
I agree.
You cannot be a multimillionaire when you're 13 years old and you're trying to create this facade that you got money. It's hurting us,
Say that again.
right? Family values. What are you doing in your community? Things that you don't have to post, right? Like we're becoming a caricature of ourselves of just posting these facades and smoky mirrors, and how I can kill all that. Going back to my first statement, numbers don't lie.
Yes.
9% of Americans make over $150,000.
Hmm.
So all that stuff that you guys are posting, it's either fake or you're creating a facade. So
That's
don't
right.
post it. Just be you,
That's
right?
right.
Just be yourself.
That's
That's
right.
all I can say.
You said a whole lot. I've always say there's no need for us to be validated. Just be who
Yeah.
you are. Just be
Let
who
me
you
say
are.
this. It's okay to be envious. I'm going to tell everyone out there.
Yes.
I wish I was The Rock. I love The Rock. I'm older than The Rock. The Rock is 48, but I would like people know it's okay to be inspired by people. I've loved The Rock since day one,
No,
right?
listen, I understand, man. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
But people, but I don't, but I'm not The Rock. I don't have The Rock's money. I don't fly private, right? I'm not The Rock. I can be inspired by him.
That's right.
I know that he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and he lifts, right? Like I can do those things. The things that don't take money, I can do. I can learn. I wish I could be in some of the rooms that he was in, but it's okay to have a hero and be inspired by someone, right? And one day maybe I'll be able to have the opportunity to talk to him, right? Because I think about it, right? So things
Exactly.
that you think about, the things that you want to be, they can happen, but you have to start thinking about it first.
That's
But
right.
you're
Put
not
out
that,
there.
right? I'm not Will Smith. I'm inspired by him, right? There's a lot of people I'm inspired by. So I try to get all the good things for the people that I'm inspired by and kind of watch their path. And I use that as a motivator to do it, right? That it can be done, right? It has been done, right? Like I'm inspired by Denzel Washington, right? It can be done because he did it, right? So those are the things that we have to think about versus trying to be something that we're not. And that's what I would recommend to every young person. Be you,
That's
right?
right.
We're going to evolve. I'm not the same person that I was at 35. At 45, I was a different person, and probably 55, I'm going to be a different person. But I just want to know that I'm growing in each decade of my life, that I have an understanding, and that it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay not to be number one. But as long as I'm getting up and I'm trying to put myself in uncomfortable situations, so I'm growing and I'm learning, that's the most important thing for me.
Hey, amen, man. Amen. Well, on that note, I have to tell you something. You are one heck of a stylist. I don't know if you're your own personal stylist or if you have somebody, but you wear them suits to clothes you choose, to shoes. You mentioned watches. You got it going on, brother. Like really, I'm like this man. Everybody doesn't have that. One of the things I envy right now is that I can't wear no stilettos like some of my girls can.
Mhm.
Now would I like to? Yes, but do I want to fall? Hell no. You know, you know. I wish I could do that like I used to years ago, but it can't happen right now.
Right.
But anyway, man, listen. I asked this question and I'm gonna ask it to you, but actually, you're gonna ask your own self a question. And this is something new I'm doing. If you had to ask yourself something that no one has asked you, what would that be?
Wow. Ask myself something. No, um, man, I'm trying to process this because I'm thinking about what I would ask someone versus asking myself. I've never thought of asking myself a question. Um, I would say, why are the little things so important? I'm very
Mm,
detailed. I'm very um, I'm someone that I look at all the details and everything that I do, um, which ties to fashion,
mhm.
right? Like a t-shirt's a t-shirt to some people. And a t-shirt to me is not just a t-shirt, it's the details in the t-shirt.
Right.
It's how it feels on your skin. It's how it was sewn. I'm fascinated with a lot of luxury things, not because they're expensive, but the details and the craftsmanship and the design part of it. And I think for me, I'm fascinated with design. Everything starts with the design,
Mhm.
right? Like everything that you have on right now, someone designed, including your glasses, right? Like people don't realize that humans are behind so many great things.
Mhm.
You know, engineers and science and design are all things that fascinate me because I like how things are built. Like even the design of a sneaker, like you might look at it as being a sneaker, but for me, it's the design aspect of what it looks like when you put it on, right? So I would, I guess that would be a question like, why are you so fascinated with it? And I think it's because it makes me feel a certain way. And so things that make me feel good, it's personal. I don't do it for you, I do it for me. So I don't know if that's good enough, but
No, it's not about
it's
being
all I
good
can think
enough.
about right now.
But here's the thing. I always like asking that question, um, just slipping in there because it you first of all you're already authentic, but it gives you a chance to really sit back and say, let me think. So there is no wrong or right answer. It's your
Yeah.
question, you know. It's your question to yourself. What's on the horizon for Sean James?
Hmm. Well, like I said, I think this pause for everyone kind of made people reflect on what they have and what they don't have, and it made you kind of think, and how you're going to move forward post pandemic and what that looks like. Um, I think this pause also has been really tough for intellectuals because intellectuals live off information, and the information that they're feeding us right now is so bad in the sense that we are paralyzed in thinking about how we're going to move forward,
Mm,
right? Because every day it changes. When will things be normal again? Will I ever be able to walk into my office and have a day that I knew it for 51 years? I don't know if that will ever come back.
mm,
Now, I want to think that, but I think for me, in doing that, I think about like what we're doing right now. Like, are we going to be people that live virtually through everything that we do? Is
mm.
this how I'm going to make money now? Or these are things that I'm going to have to do to be able to exist and live a life that I thought was full of ambition and joy? I'm a big believer in human connection, so I don't like it. I'm a social creature, right? I do much better um, with people in a room and being able to see their reaction and see the body language when I speak to them. Um, so um, moving forward, I think
Mm.
I will, continue to do the things that I'm doing. I mean, obviously, my financial literacy and the things that I do day to day are important. I think I find that they're important because people are leaning on how they're going to be able to live.
Yes.
So that's been, full tilt, and my plate's been full on that. But you know, I was also a person that was very social because of my philanthropic efforts, and being able to go out and raise funds and do galas and all the things that happen as a philanthropic person in New York City. And that aspect of my life for a whole year has been gone.
Yeah.
So um, I do believe it will come back. Um, but I think, doing all the things that I'm doing, I mean, I hope that um, if I continue to plug away, things will get back to normal. And I think ahead, but for the most part, I've been kind of at a pause of just like the things I want to do moving forward, just because I don't know this unknown that we're living in. We don't know what the future looks like. But I'm being optimistic. I try to see the glass halfway full all the time.
Yes.
Um, but I would just say to you, continue to do what I'm doing the best that I can do it. Um, uh, Still empower young people. I feel like that's my purpose, is to be able to give them not the things that I do well, but the mistakes that I've made and how I've been able to persevere through those mistakes. Because that's what people don't talk about. We don't talk about our mess ups. We talk about our goods. So I like to talk about my mess ups, and it really hits, I think, a different spot in their brain that allows them to understand that I've messed up and I'm not perfect.
Yes.
Um, and you know, I wish I could do maybe for a whole month, like post bad things that happen to me, or post me when my hair's not slicked back. Post me busted, or when I have a gut, and see if anyone likes that.
Yeah.
We don't celebrate the things that we don't want people to see.
Maybe that could be a new campaign you could work on. Just post to everything. Post it when you wake up in the morning with bad breath. Um,
Yeah,
you
this is
know,
what
got a crust in your eye. Us women need pedicures and manicures, and just
I
keep it
think that
real.
works better for women than men, because women have the ability to like have no makeup on.
Yeah.
have something on their hair.
You see, the good thing about us is like when your hair's not cut, you put a turban on your head, man. Just
Yeah,
keep it real, okay? But
I
so
like.
what advice, speaking of young people, what advice would you give to young people today?
Actually, I wrote down some things. I thought about that.
Awesome.
I'm gonna write. I'm gonna read them because a lot of times I'll go through something and then I won't. I'll be like, why didn't I use that? So these are things that I either have been motivated by or someone has said to me. Okay, what's keeping you safe is keeping you stuck.
Hmm.
Say it again.
Better
What's
say it again.
keeping you safe is keeping you stuck.
Wow.
Turn fear into fuel.
Hmm.
The things that you fear is a mind killer, by the way.
That's right.
It controls our thoughts, right? And I put, you know, on my Instagram, I always share my thoughts. These are things that are either motivational things that I've either created a word and then I'll write about it. I'll give my version of the definition. Because what happens is people will take your words and have their own definition for them. You don't get to do that with me. I get to define my words.
Exactly.
Um, and then don't overcomplicate anything.
Hmm.
Find the people that have done it right, because there have been people that have done it right, and ask them how they did it. Humans complicate everything, right? I see it on Zoom calls every day.
Hmm.
I have to sit there and I have to actually not rock my face or do this because I'm like, dude, you're making this way too complicated.
Hmm.
Humans screw up so many things when it's not that complicated. Smart people too,
That's good.
right?
Trust me, I understand.
Right. Being smart has nothing to do with your knowledge. It's how you use your knowledge to solve problems. And then the last one is um, everything is attainable. There's abundance of everything.
Hmm.
We all can make money. Don't think that because your friend's making more money than you, that you can't do it as well. Don't let that be your motivation. Just know that there's a lot of the pie and you're guaranteed a slice if you focused on that. And then my last thing is this: the things that you truly want, narrow it down to one thing and focus on that for a month. Don't give anything else anything, no, don't give anything else any time. Focus on the one thing that you want and get it done. If it's buying a pair of boots, then you focus on buying those pair of boots. If it's designing a new kitchen, then you design that new kitchen. If it's figuring out how you're going to pay for something or college, find the resources to do it and give it all your focus. What happens is we have so many things that we're focusing on that we never focus on one thing. So therefore, we never really get it done. And those are people that usually are very good at task. And then know that people are motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by money and some people are motivated by titles. Some people are motivated to just getting looked at. Go on Instagram, right? Some girls just want people to look at them. They don't care about money. They just want to be looked at. So understand that we're all different and we're motivated by different things. So the quicker that you understand that, the quicker you're going to be able to say, well, what am I motivated by? What makes me happy? Is it money? Is it success? Is it both? Is it education? Is it not money? Is it helping others? And then my final thing is this: whenever I'm feeling bad about myself, right, which I told you I battle with depression, and understand this, people, I will die with depression, right? It's my job to maintain it, right? And that could be through therapy, it could be through medication. And I wasn't comfortable saying that. I was diagnosed um, with depression at 38. So I've known for a long time. So I have things I have to deal with as well. And don't think that you're alone. Like the word, I wish they would change the word from mental illness to just something different. I think that's been such a stigma that something's wrong with you, that you're not okay. If I showed up to work with a torn ACL and I was physically ill, no one would say anything to me, right? They'd be like, "Oh, Sean, what happened to your knee? You got surgery?" But if I told you something, you know, in my brain that, from the way that I'm wired can go to a bad place that creates this feeling that I don't want to be around people or I don't feel good about myself, then something's wrong with me. So it's more that we talk about it, and I think it's starting to come to the forefront where people are getting comfortable talking about it, that mental illness is there's nothing wrong with that. Some of the greatest people in the world, Albert Einstein was dyslexic, right? They told him that compound interest was stupid, and he changed the world. So let's not let these stigmas define us. Use them to motivate. And some of the greatest artists in the world, from Basquiat to Warhol, dealt with depression, right? So Prince dealt with depression, right? One of my favorite singers. I'm sure Michael Jackson did too. So let's celebrate those people, and know that we can use these things to actually be our super juice to make us better, right? I use it as a motivator because I know that when I say Albert Einstein dealt with depression, well, does that make me Albert Einstein? No, but I know that he overcame a lot and he changed the world. So for all you young people out there, don't use that as a stigma that you're not good enough to get something done. That would be it.
Man, that's more than it. That is everything. You know, I'm motivated by you. I'm inspired by you. I'm
Thank you.
inspired by this conversation. Um,
Ditto. I give that back to you. I appreciate it.
Man, I mean, I really, really am, and I just keep going back to the fact that your openness. We need more of that, and I hope that this conversation will touch some bodies. I'm sure it will. It's touched me, and so you are an amazing brother. I told you that a long time ago, and I'll tell you again, and I'll continue telling you that until the kingdom come. But thank you, Sean. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being on my team. And as I said, I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do, if there's anyone else that I can help, maybe get to interview with you that you see value in, to kind of diversify what you're doing. I think what you're doing is so important, to create these platforms, to be able to talk to people and get insight, and to share that with the world is just as important as the person that you're interviewing. So you're appreciated. I love you for that. And I wish you nothing but the best and success.
Man, I love you too, brother. That's what this is all about. I think that's why the show is called Anything and Everything, and that's why I say that everyone in humanity has a story. None of us are exempt from the trials and tribulations associated with life. So, best at the end of the day, just speak your truth and keep it moving and be real about it. So this is actually what has happened today. So I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone, this has been Anything and Everything's Moment in Black History, and we have had athlete, entrepreneur, financial guru, motivational speaker, philanthropist, my brother, Sean James. Sean, thank you for your contributions to the youth.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Love you.
Man, love you too. Appreciate you immensely. Until next time, everyone, stick around and we will have a little special something from Sean.
Be able to attain without somebody helping provide that push or that empathy.
Well, you've always been there for me, and I think, being a part of your family and seeing all three of your kids grow up, and knowing your wife, and just being a part of, having the access to be able to go to your house and having that big brother, father figure, and still feeling the discipline that you expected from us. I think about the first time that you really got my butt. We were playing McPherson at Gallon Stadium. A play that we had rehearsed all week. It might have been a toss sweep, left, I was right corner, or roll out. Something that was going the left side where there was a lead block. And my job all week was to come up and bust up that fullback. Either take him out or make a tackle. I kind of hesitated. Wide receiver kind of ran me off. The play was coming. It was a wide side of the field. They were running toward our sideline. Guy kind of put a hit on me, and I didn't make the play. And you looked at me, you go, Sean, get over here. And I ran over, he goes, we've been practicing that play all day. Go hit somebody. It was just one of those things where you grabbed my face mask and you were disappointed in me. And I was like, I'll never want that feeling again. I'll never disappoint him again. There's so many different memories, but the best memory for me was just your leadership and your ability to kind of push me and maybe saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And not to realize that one day I might be a college athlete and go on and do things I've done. It all started here with you, so appreciate it. Love you.